I'm Cameron St. Louis and I'm 21.
Hello, my name is Chloe Crowley and I'm 17 years old.
Hello, my name's Caris Smith and I'm 20.
Hello, my name's Sienna Hill and I'm 20 years old.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I work for the Met Police and I'm in charge of the outreach team.
Hello, my name is Adina and I'm the Met Outreach Lead for Newham and Waltham Forest.
Hello, my name is Stacia. I'm one of the outreach officers covering Newham and Waltham Forest and I'm on the outreach recruitment team.
Start off a quick question for all of you is what made you want to join the police?
Well, for me, it was a childhood ambition that I had, which I suppose really was embedded in my experience in childhood of overt racism and of feeling unsafe and powerless and looking to my parents and family for that protection and support. I sort of grew up with a strong sense of wanting to be in that position to be able to help others and have the authority and the capability to. So when the Met visited my school, my primary school as a child, they came, they gave a talk, and I was mesmerised. I was mesmerised by the presence of the officers, what they had to say, and then they pinned that I've met the Met sticker onto my school jumper, and that was it for me. That seed was planted. And I followed that dream, and that's really where it comes from for me.
So I grew up in Jamaica. I've always thought of a career in the police, but it's a lot different in Jamaica than it is here in the UK. So I came here to the UK, fell in love with the bill. For those of you who knows. And then I started working in Newham within Children and Young People's Services, where I came across a lot of victims that was going through domestic violence. The support I was able to give, it needed to go a step further. So an email came around where they were looking for council staff to join the Met Police as special constables. So I saw it and thought, oh wow, look at this. I've got children growing up in the area. I'd like to make a difference for young people. And I thought, you know what, I am going to go for this. I was told that, oh no, you shouldn't go for it. But yeah, I strongly believed in it. And so I went. I was a special constable for 9 years, loved every minute of it. And as my kids grew older, I decided to join full time. And that's where it started for me.
If you'd have asked me this question, I joined 32 years ago, before you were even born. I never saw myself being in the police service. Half of my family have got a past which would have meant if I had the same surname, I couldn't have joined. The reason I joined is I wanted variety. I wanted to do different roles, which I've been able to do. But I also wanted to do something where I was able to give back to other people and be able to help others. And that's what I've still wanted to do up until today. So still got that enthusiasm. And I think it's, there's very few jobs where you can do something where you feel like you're also helping others at the same time. So that's why I joined.
So I'm just going to ask the next question. During your time at the police force, have you ever experienced racism?
Me, yes, I can certainly say I have. And you know, times change. So as I mentioned before, when I grew up was in the early 80s, it was very overt racism. During my time in the Met, in the last 16 years, it's more subtle, but it's still quite prevalent. So for me, my experiences has been in developmental opportunities, the promotions that I didn't get, although I was told I was the most qualified, I had the most experience, I had the skill set that was required. I'd bided my time, I'd waited, I'd followed the process, and still I wasn't successful in those attempts and those opportunities. And when I asked for feedback, I was given very weak responses as to why I wasn't successful. And to this day, in fact, you know, even if I recollect, I still haven't had an adequate response. I would often be told, oh, somebody else was more appropriate, or we felt it wasn't the right time for you. Now, for me, you know, I know when's the right time for me to push myself and my career forward. I've demonstrated it over a period of time. I've met the requirement. I've excelled beyond the requirement, and still I was being met with negative and no responses. So when you have that experience repeatedly, and you're not given sufficient reasons why you're not making that progress, you have very few reasons left to sort of put that down to. And then you bring your own life experience into it outside of the job. And you know what's happening because it's something you've experienced before. And, you know, even in other microaggressions, for example, being a black female, and loving, like most women, loving having that fluidity to change my appearance and my hairstyle on different occasions and coming to work, having colleagues come up to you and ask if they can touch your hair, touch your natural afro hair or your braids. And for them, you know, it might be complimentary. For me, there are subtle undertones of that in terms of I'm not a exotic animal. Please don't touch me. Please respect my personal space. I don't ask to touch your person. And it's in those ways, those microaggressions, I think more so. It's much more subtle, but it's unfortunately still very much there.
So for me, I have not experienced any racism directly. I've had colleagues say to me, like someone have said, okay, we're doing a shared lunch today. And they'll say, okay, and Stacey, you're gonna bring the fried chicken and the curry goat. And like colleagues will turn to me and say, that's because you're black. That's why they expect you to bring this. I personally didn't look at it like that. So whether it's seen that way by others, but I personally didn't see it like that. So I can say I've not experienced much racism at all, me personally.
I think it's a good question to ask in terms of within policing, but I'd put it even further because racism exists in everyday life. So to expect there not to be racism in any job that you operate, but I think it's more important how you deal with it. Quite often it's ignorance, people are just ignorant. When I was a lot younger, I would probably have reacted more aggressively to somebody being racist to me. But as I've got older, I think I just look at them and quite often they just need to be educated and understanding that end of the day, we're human beings. We're all human beings. Just because my skin colour is different, we all bleed the same colour. And I think more often, if you can get people to understand their behaviour and how it's impacting on you as a person, you then hope that they'll change their behaviours. And I think that's the key thing in terms of moving forward, because ultimately we've got to work together in whatever job that we're doing. We've got to work together. So if you can get people to understand, and I think a lot of stuff, when you look at, maybe we talk about stop and search, but if you kind of ask people, if that was your son or daughter and you saw them being handled in the way that we see that's happening, would you be happy about it? Then if that starts to get them thinking differently, then hopefully we're moving in the right direction. Right.
Well, I'll be asking the next question. I just wanted to sort of ask you guys how you felt about stop and search regulations now. It is sort of something that's sort of like a grey area, which is completely understandable. I just wanted to sort of know how you guys obviously feel about that, and do you believe that some people do, or some officers, should I say, exercise that right a bit too much? Sometimes do you see it going sort of left rather than the correct way? Because obviously stop and searches are for a reason, but do you believe that sometimes people exercise that right a bit, almost a bit too much?
Yeah, I think the starting point is, do we need stop and search? I think there are occasions when we do need it. So for example, I've been a borough commander in charge of Croydon. We went through a stage where we were having knife crime every single day. We got to one stage where we had 4 fatal stabbings over a month period of time. And I'm having the parents of those children, because they were 15, 16 years of age, saying to me, what are we doing to stop this from happening? So one of the ways of prevention is to let people know that if you come to a certain area where crime's taking place, there is a likelihood that you will get stopped. That's an intrusive power. So it's the fact that you've got the power, it's how you do it. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. Yeah. And if you do it with dignity, if you respect the person, you explain to them why you're doing it, then I think there's a long way, and I think a lot of things that we need to improve on as a policing service is many officers may have the power, but the way that they go about using that power and how they leave that person after having that. Mm-hmm. I've been stopped when I was 9 years of age. I can still remember it to this day. I've been stopped when I've been driving a nice car. And I've stopped driving nice cars. I get tired of being stopped. So I understand it. But how do I get officers that work for me to understand that themselves? So I think a lot of it is down to having discussions. A lot of the training that we do now, we get young black males to be interacting with officers to explain how they feel and look to turn the tables. And then over time, you can see in where that training's taking place, the number of complaints go down, but we've got to keep improving because yes, there is a need for it, but it's important how we do it.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to say something. This is a question to do with what your response was, and to do with the question itself is that from my own experience of being stopped and searched, I was it was an evening, and the way I was dressed, from your take of view, if you was on a stop and search patrol, or what it's called, would you stop me if I was dressed? I had sliders on, no socks. I'd just come from football training. I had the very kind of tight jogging bottoms, and I had a firm one, no t-shirt, no jacket. My hair was up, and it was a big transit van, stopped, slid the doors. About 5 officers jumped out, and they stopped me. And one officer, in particular, held me against the garages, and said that he's gonna stop and search me. I'm very controlled as a character. I had no issue, had nothing that was an offence, and I couldn't show ID. He wanted to see a proof of ID, and I couldn't show ID because I've just come from football training. This is not something I carry to my training. All I have is me and my boots. And he said to me that I would be taken to the station and kept there until I can prove ID. Is this something that, number one, would you stop me the way I was dressed and the way I look, on an evening night? And second of all, is that a protocol that you follow? Because I couldn't show ID, physical ID. I showed him a picture on my phone, but because I couldn't show him physical ID in my hand, I was going to be taken to the station. Yeah,
like, is there a criteria that somebody has to meet for a stop and search, or do you just, not you personally, or like, do you just sort of say?
Yeah, so the way that, listening to your example, one, it should never have happened. Secondly, the officers should have been wearing body-worn cameras. And the reason I mention that is it's vitally important that you know your rights. You've got to know your rights. And if an officer is not performing their duties the way that they're doing, more often than not, it's best just to allow them to do what they're doing so you don't antagonize and cause the situation to escalate. But the moment that stop has finished, you should be asking for their details. They should be giving you a slip in terms of the stop. And then what you can do is then make a complaint about the behaviours of the officers. What should be happening is they should be, if they feel there's a reason to stop, there needs to be grounds. They need to explain to you why, so the object of the search, what it is that they're specifically looking for. Mm-hmm. They can explain to you the powers that they've got. But if they'd have stopped you and said, for example, I'm making it up, if there had been a series of stabbings within the very area that you're in, and you fit the description of somebody wearing the stuff that you're wearing, they will explain that to you and say, look, we're looking to stop you because we believe that you may have a knife on you. First of all, do you have a knife? Do you have anything on you that's sharp and anything else? So they're explaining that whole process to you. You should then understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. But to just come out of the van with 5 officers, pull you over to one side, that should not be happening. Do I know it happens? Yes, I do. But you need to know how then to approach to prevent it from happening the next time. Yeah?
Understood.
Thank you.
I'll be asking the next question. My question is why should young black females, young black males, Asian, or just females in general join the police?
For me, I think anyone who chooses to join the Met should make sure in the first instance that they're joining for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. It's easy to be reactive when you see high profile things happening in the media, and naturally you have an emotional response to it, particularly if it sort of targets somebody that you share the same cultural background with or ethnicity with. You might feel a stronger sense of anger and emotion towards that, and so people tend to have knee-jerk reasons or all sorts of reasons why they want to join the Met. So I always say to people, just make sure you join for the right reasons for you. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. But ultimately, of course, I want to represent myself and my community. I want to ensure that black women in particular are represented in the Met. Now, not only am I the outreach lead for Newham and Waltham Forest, but I also give my time voluntarily as a police officer. Mm-hmm. So I work as a special constable, and I work within a particular command of safer transport and traffic. Very male dominated, very white male dominated, just traditionally, mm-hmm. because the Met is 70% white male police officers. That is factual. So within that command, I am the only, on my team of 12, the only woman, the only black officer, and certainly across the board, the only black female officer. Mm-hmm. And because of the role that we perform in safe transport and traffic, we're roads policing. So we are often those officers, those teams of officers who are pulling people over in their vehicles, making checks, and if necessary, performing searches. Mm-hmm. So I've had that experience. I've been part of that experience. And for me, it's really important that we are visible. I want to be visible as a woman and as a black female police officer, so that people can see that, you know, we are in these roles. There's fairness as well, because quite honestly, just being visible, even if I'm not the officer that's dealing with the situation, just being visible already reduces the tension in that situation and the anxiety for that member of public. And it gives balance to the situation, and people deserve to see themselves represented in the police service, and it puts me in a unique position. And it's been difficult for me at times, but actually the feedback, the positive feedback that I get from people is what makes me want to continue. And you know, it's all good and well going out there preaching, oh, you should come and join, but actually to step up and put yourself forward first, and be counted, have a seat at the table so that you can have a voice, is massively important. And as black women, we are overwhelmingly underrepresented within the Met.
So when I started off as a special constable, I was, as Adina said, I was one of the only black female officers that was on my team, the team I took over from, and the team that take over from us. And I wasn't able to see myself in any of the offices I was working with. And I thought, you know what, there's something seriously wrong here. So coming back to 2021, when there was this new role was created where the outreach team was going out into the heart of the communities to recruit from the underrepresented groups in the Met, and that's females and Black and Asian male and female and mixed heritage. I thought, you know what, this is it. This is my chance to be able to go into the communities and encourage, you know, Black females that, like myself, to say, you know what, you want to see a change in the way the Met Police London, come and be that change, come and be that voice. You know, we can do it together. I mean, the Met is changing. I'm a part of history. So when I'm talking to, you know, especially young females, I'm saying, you know what, help to be a part of that change. Your voice is important. Come in and, you know, help to be the change.
Yeah, I'll just reinforce that. I think we provide a policing service. And in order to provide a proper service, we've got to be representative. If you think of it, lone females walking home late at night, if you see 2 female police officers, I would make a hazard a guess that you're probably going to feel reassured. If they look like you, you're probably going to feel reassured. If you saw a couple of Black officers coming up to you and describing, look, something's happened, you're more likely to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to listen to what they're saying. They're not picking on me just because of the way I look. So it's vitally important that we have diversity in terms of gender, age, and ethnicity.
You made a point of it being 70% white officers and the rest being a smaller minority, such as Black, Asian, females. Do you feel strongly as if the percentage was more 50-50, that a lot of things that go on in policing would be different and experiences that a lot of people have, and you know, maybe we have trauma from or feel like our police are the worst people in the world? Do you feel like that would be a big difference if it was a 50-50?
I think undoubtedly the experience of many Londoners with the police would be different, because I think now we're at about 9 million Londoners, so it's a huge city of people, a huge population to police. Now having a 70% white male dominated police service to manage and police and serve all of those people is not representative of our communities within London. There's a massive imbalance there. So we simply cannot provide that sort of service to all the individuals and meet those needs and have an awareness and understanding of their backgrounds and experiences, and they can't identify with us because there's simply not enough people from underrepresented communities, as you mentioned, within the service to sort of go out there and police London. And if we readdress that imbalance, although policing is still, we still have to go out there and do a job. It's the experience and the cultural awareness, the understanding of all of those protected characteristics. If we have a service that is reflective of those communities that we serve, we will have less problems as a result. And I think that's what's needed.
Yeah, I think I think you've got to look at it. We are where we are in terms of the numbers at the moment, but it's saying, okay, what are we doing to address that imbalance? So within the past 2 years within the outreach team, we've had some targets. So we were looking to recruit 50% of all new recruits were to be women, 40% were to be from underrepresented groups, 8% were to be from the Black community, and 15% were to be women from underrepresented groups. Within the past year and a half, the team made up of Adina, Stacia and others, we've been able to recruit 48% of the people that we've recruited are women. 46% of all people that we recruited are from underrepresented groups. The target for black was 8%, we've recruited 24%. And for females from underrepresented groups, we've been able to recruit almost 30%. Now the way that we've been able to do that is our team is made up of over 60% of people from underrepresented groups. 60% of our supervisors are women. Both Adina and Stacia are supervisors. So what's more powerful when you're going out there and speaking to people, and the age-old thing is you can be what you want to. If you can see something, then you can strive for it.
And to add, I would say, especially when I'm having those conversations, well, like I stop someone to have a conversation, it doesn't always have to be, okay, do you want to join the police? But it's just having a conversation, because so many times I've stopped to have a conversation and someone will say to me, I've never spoken to a police officer, or even explaining some of the different roles that is within the Met makes a big difference. People just don't understand some of the different roles that we do. So just stopping and having a conversation and getting someone to, even if they ask a question, be open and honest about our experience. I think that's where the outreach team being out and about in the communities is helping in terms of getting more females, more males and stuff from the underrepresented groups in, because someone is stopping and having that conversation with them and giving them, just getting them to understand a bit more about what the job entails.
And just to build on that point, whilst our initial focus is trying to get more police officers in, because that's what you'll see front off in terms of going out. But if you want to do something in HR, finance, media, corporate services, all of these different roles exist within policing. Yeah. So we just say to people, you may not want to be an officer, but there's so many other things to do.
Moving on to the next question, I'd like to start with you, is what did your family think of you when you said, I'm joining the police? What is it how did they view you?
Well, as I mentioned before, half of my family pretty much disowned me because of their past. My dad was okay about it. He just said, look, if you're going to do it, don't embarrass me. My mum, being a typical mum, was like, what protection are you going to get? Are you going to be safe? And all this kind of stuff. I had to explain to her I'm a black belt in karate and everything else. And she was like, that doesn't stop a gun and all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay. But my family are good. They've always been supportive of what I wanted to do. So-called friends that disown me, that demonstrate they weren't truly my friends because I'm doing a job. So should that change because So I think end of the day, I think Adina has said it, if you're considering doing it, it's a challenging job, but it's also rewarding. But you should go in with your eyes open. And what we say to people is, come on a ride along, come out and see what it's like, go out with an officer. If you want to go into CID, plain clothes, come out and see what it's like, then make an informed decision.
I think for me, my parents, family, friends have always been really, really supportive of it. And I think they pretty much had no choice in it, because as I told you earlier, that it was a childhood ambition since the age of 10. So I've been banging on about it, since the age of 10. So it was no surprise to them when I said, I'm ready to sort of start on that career pathway now. We were just waiting for you to get on with it, because we always knew you were going to do it. But naturally, my parents had concerns, particularly my dad, around his daughter joining the Met. Number one, because he's a dad, so he was concerned about safety, but also from his own experiences. My dad was a teenager in a very 70s racist Britain. He was an immigrant to this country in the 60s, following on from that Windrush generation. So he grew up in a very racist 70s Britain, and listening to the stories that were passed down to me, and then I had my own experiences of that, of my dad having run from the police, because that's what you did. You ran. You don't run towards them as a beacon of safety and help. You run away. So they had concerns around that for me, and what it would be like for me internally, what racism I would face as well as my safety out there on the streets, but what internally would I face? But I always had my parents' full support. They were there at my passing out ceremony on the day with my son, and they're very proud, and all my friends and family. I never lost any, friends or family over it. In fact, if anything, I have family members who have since joined the service after me in various roles. And my mum for many years worked as civilian staff before I joined. She's a chef, so she served dinners to many commissioners as I grew up over the years, and would often take me into Scotland Yard, and I'd get to try things and have a sneak peek around the building. And so it was always something that's been within my family, and they've been very open to it, and I've always had that support, which has enabled me to go forward with my career.
And for me, I said I got that email while I was working for the council. I got home really excited, said to my partner at the time, I'm thinking about joining the police. I was told, I forbid you to do it. And I looked back on myself and thought, you know what? That's the reason why I'm going to do it. Anyway, I did my application. I don't have a lot of my family here, but I've got 3 sisters in Canada, so I called them up all excited. I'm the youngest, so they look at me as the baby of the family. They were like, oh, we're going to be so scared for you. And that's, again, because they didn't grow up in the UK. They don't know what the police system is like. They're basing it off of what goes on in Jamaica and all of that. But yeah, I went for it. They're all very, very proud of me. My sister that is from Jamaica was able to come over and see me at my passing out parade. My children was able to come, and yeah, everyone just supports me now. And I said the reason why they were against it at the time is just fear of, the unknown, because they don't know about policing in
Sorry,
London.
just to sort of go off of that question that Cameron asked, what would you say to people who want to join the police force but are too scared because of what their family might think?
I've been encouraging my daughter. So if it was a thing where I think, oh yeah, I'm not interested in anyone joining the police, I wouldn't be encouraging my own daughter. She's 19, and I keep saying to her, please join. She's got other ideas at the moment, but I know she'll come. She'll make the move. So yeah, it's just I love what I do. I think it's a safe job, especially for females. Like a lot of females have doubts about it. Yeah. And if I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't be encouraging my own daughter to do it.
Good.
Yeah. And I'd agree with your sentiments, Stacey, in terms of come and speak to us. It really examine what those fears are. What are your concerns? And if you have them, come and speak to our outreach teams. That's what we're here for. Come and engage with us, and really, come into that space and speak to us about those concerns, because we understand, that anxiety and sort of people sort of standing back from it. But actually, if you get that insight, and as Jeff mentioned about doing ride-alongs, for example, which will give you an up-close, really practical opportunity to sit in the back of a police car, ride along with police officers and see what they do, or come and speak to our outreach officers and ask them about their experiences, as I say. But yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think most people are fearful of what they don't know.
Yeah.
So we can do a lot of work because we know within certain cultures that parents are the kind of gatekeepers. So quite often we will look to do things with parents to educate them, make them aware. Once they become aware that we've got over 40 different staff support associations, we've got mentors, we've got buddies, those type of things. Quite often you start to break down some of those either preconceptions or concerns. But I think we've got to do more. because we want people to come, but we've got to let people know what's out there and how we can support them.
Definitely, thank you.